Well, hello, Bob Dendry here, and welcome back to Transport Fever 2, where we are building the Reno, Thousand Oaks and Roseville Railway. So last episode we didn't really get a whole lot done. We were focused on trying to, optimize how the system worked. We did get a fuel train running over to Reno, which is, quite a big moneymaker for us now, but it's really time to start trying to, really expand the railroad. And we have 3 tasks in this episode to make that happen. First of all, I want to have a look at this junction here. Now, as you can see, this is a junction that's sort of full of conflict. If you've got our fuel train, for example, that is running towards Reno, it has to cross across, 2 sets of tracks to run towards Reno. And you can see here as well, our oil train also blocks oncoming traffic when it crosses over. So how we're going to fix that is we're going to use a flyover for trying to get this to work. And I want to basically build a bit of a bridge for our main line and have a track run underneath it to get to the other side. So that will reduce the conflict. As we're seeing here, we've actually had a train that's had to stop to allow that movement to occur. And realistically, our fuel train shouldn't need to conflict with any movements at all. It doesn't need to use this main line, so it shouldn't really use any tracks on it. So look, what I'm going to do from here, we're going to wait till our oil train or our crude oil train has run through. Then we're going to pause, and there's going to be some deletion that's going to happen. This is going to be a bit of a fundamental change to how the network works. All right, so we're going to pause here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get out my bulldozer, and we are pretty much going to get rid of everything for quite a bit of the way. Because we're going to have to obviously have some room for our tracks to get up and then back down on our main line. We also need to decide where the track will actually run over or run under and cross over. And I think if we sort of head fairly straight, I think that probably makes the most sense. But another thing we need to deal with is obviously this track is actually fairly high off the ground already. So it may take a little bit of experimentation to get it right, but I think we should be okay. So first of all, I'm going to take my lower tool, and we're just going to create a little, whoa, it's a very big, maybe not that much lowering, but it's a good place to start, I suppose. And we weren't really needing to create a lake there. So I'm going to take this as a bit of a lowest point, and try and get it to sort of one height. That appears to be raising it, doesn't it? I've done this wrong, haven't I? I actually meant to use the flatten tool, not the smooth tool. So let's try this again. So we want to get everything to sort of this level here. So I think if we use this tool, that's the tool we're after. Perfect. All right, now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a rail on our main line and just try and run it across. Probably lifting up as we go. So we might have it sort of pull back this way a little bit. Then it's going to start curving back this way. It will go up. And we're going to try and have that end here. And hopefully it can cross over flat, which it can. And then we're going to try and have it just come straight back down and join up with our existing rail line. I think that works pretty well. So we've got a little bit of room here. And what we're going to do then, we're going to need to slightly realign our existing tracks, obviously. Now, 2 things we need to do. We need to allow our trains to come and go from this section of track here, which there's actually a little bit of trouble getting that to happen because it is such a big change in height. So what we're going to do then is, can we get it under without any issues? So we can get it under. So we'll go under fine. We might try and get that as flat as it can. Does it need to go that low? Let's have a look and see. So it can go much higher, almost flat actually. It can go through there, and that's good. And from there, we will need to start going up. Make a connection here. And we're also going to make a connection here also. A fairly straight connection there. So that works out well, no issues there. A big problem is going to be making the connection here. Like, in fact, it didn't even work out as that bad. So that's a pretty good connection there, I'm happy with that. And then we can just connect on here as well. Though they didn't actually connect up. Now they're connected. Okay, so now what we'll expect to see when this operates normally is our Now, what we'll expect to see when this is operating normally is that our oil train, which is coming from our oil refinery over here, will exit and run along these lower tracks. It will unload. It will then switch onto the higher tracks, run under the main line, and then connect back up. And our fuel train will, use this upper line completely. It won't even cross or have any interaction with the main line, really. So it really cuts down on the conflict here. And once we've got it signaled up, we'll get it running along again. As you can see, we've used a fair bit of money making this happen, but I think this really does help boost the capacity, especially when we want to be adding on more trains, which will obviously increase the congestion as well. So I'm going to start running again. I think we actually just have a couple of things we need to fix up, and that is changing what lines or what terminuses our trains using this fuel refinery are going to use. Perfect. And we'll start running, and then as we go, we'll re-signal. Perfect, and that is all done, and that will, reduce the sort of stops we're going to have on our main line due to these movements of our oil and fuel trains. So really happy with that one. All right, our next step is to really boost the sort of network capacity in terms of our train lengths and the number of trains we're running. So to be able to support a passenger line, we know passenger lines are rarely profitable when they first start running, and you do need a really good well-run freight network to support them in their early years. So if we have a look at the, amount of crude oil we have sitting here, we've got more than enough to support at least one more train on each of these lines. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be working towards getting 2 extra trains, 1 on each line, and sort of balancing the number of vehicles we have on each line as well. So we're going to start with this closer line, and we are going to be using a probably a Baldwin, I would say. I think that makes sense. It's a nice, decent value opportunity here. And if we get that one built and chuck on as many oil cars as we can, as you can see, not many at the moment, but how we're going to make this work is we're going to get it purchased, put it on the line, and what we're actually going to do is we're going to pop back over to this line here, and we're going to edit our trains. So what I actually want to do is I want to switch across quite a fair few of our oil cars onto this new train, because it's got a lot more power and it can run a little bit faster as well. So we're going to modify it. Other thing we need to do with the line itself is we need to hook it up so we can use both of these platforms at the terminus as well. So that is done, and that should allow us to have a really nice smooth flow of traffic, hopefully constantly stopping, filling up, and then coming back again. So that should boost our profitability by at least another 500,000-600,000 for this line itself, I would say. And we'll now do the same with our other longer oil line as well. So once again, we'll be using a Baldwin. and just filling it up with as many tank cars as we can afford. Slight difference with this one though is that we are going to need to install a passing loop as well. So we'll get this running on the line, and then we're going to need to quickly install a passing loop and hopefully get it done before we inevitably run out of money. Perfect, and I think we're good with our train lengths. This one is actually going to be quite a long train, I think, anyway. Let's have a look at the line and see. Actually, no, we can probably transfer a few cars, I think. Yeah, perfect. So our older one is a little bit longer, so we will switch across a few there, and that should be a-okay if we do that. And our new oil train is now arriving, or crude oil train I should say. And ooh, almost 1 million. That is beautiful. Okay, so as we can see, we're now really starting to get quite a bit of profitability from this new set of trains we're running. Got another one coming in here as well, which will also be bringing a bit of cash for us. And that really leads us on to what will be the final tasks that we'll be going through in this episode, and that is beginning a passenger network. So we've already sort of, through our name being the Reno Thousand Oak and Roseville Railway, defined where we're initially going to be serving with our passenger network. And we do have some parts of the network already in place, but a lot of it we'll actually have to build ourselves because our freight and our passenger aren't completely going to line up. So first of all, let's have a look at Reno, where our terminus is going to be. Obviously, there's no further towns on the, bottom of the map from our current perspective, so it will be a terminus station, and we should be able to sort of use it to branch out in different directions as well. So we'll need to leave some options to expand. Now, if we have a look at our town, we should be able to locate where our passengers are going to come from, and they're going to be coming from this sort of bottom right part of the map. And where I'm thinking we could initially place our train station down is in this little area here. That should give us a fair amount of coverage, though we may need to augment it with some public transport down the line if we're not getting enough passengers wanting to travel. But let's start off with just a 2-platform station. We can go up to 4 if we need to, but 2 should sort of, go fine with what we've got available to us right now. Let's plop that one in there, and basically from here what we're going to be doing is teeing onto our existing freight line. We'll also need to add in some passing loops as well to obviously handle the new traffic we're going to be seeing. So let's start up here, and then we'll just tee it in this area where it's fairly flat to the ground. We're going to go with a fairly long sort of junction so we can hopefully maintain a bit of speed for our passenger trains. And then I think I want to put in probably 2 passing loops between here and this left side of Thousand Oaks, which is where we're going to be splitting off. At the moment, we're going to be targeting 240 meters for our passing loop length. That will allow us to fit, trains that go the full length of the platforms we have available to us at the moment. If we extend those platforms down the line, we'll also need to keep that in mind and look to extend the passing loops as well. Otherwise, we might potentially end up with some traffic jams. Now let's have a look at Thousand Oaks. So our passengers are sort of on this top left sort of section of the town. So we probably want to get our station fairly close to our existing freight line, and I think what we'll do, we'll extend a little bit of a street through here, which I was hoping to get at a 90, but apparently it's not letting me do that. Perfect. So what we'll do then, we will get our 240 meter long train station in over here. It will give us, oops, zooming out a little bit too much, that will give us a fairly good indication of what we're covering, and we're covering a fair amount. Not the whole thing, but we're covering a decent amount of our passenger demand, and we can of course implement some public transport to increase that reach as well. But from here, we're just going to tee this straight in here, and we are going to use some two-way signals as well, or at least we'll use one two-way signal here, and then we'll obviously have our signals at our train station as well. All right, what we're going to be wanting to do from here is run this sort of around past our Roseville oil well, and then we can get into the town of Roseville itself. Now, if we have a look at the sort of distribution here, Roseville's a little bit more spread out, and what I'm thinking we will probably do is we will get our station in at a bit of a angle here, which will obviously need a bit of public transport to support as well. So I'm going to lay that down there. We can get a road, and first thing I want to do is we want to run a road down here. That will remove a single house, but that is what it is. And then I just want to run a road down here as well, just to, I guess, give more sort of options in terms of routes to the station itself. So that's pretty good. And then from there, we're going to run this fairly independently of the freight line, but we will have a join between the two, obviously, to facilitate any freight movements and to help with getting our trains out of this depot, which is where we're going to be buying them from as well. And then we will sort of cross and get our connection set up here to essentially allow trains to move across and join up with this passenger line should they need to. So what I will do, we will have a bit of a cross connection here. I will need to push out our loop a little bit further because I didn't quite line up with where I wanted it to go. Had a bit of weirdness going there, but it was just the autosave running. And then we're going to set up some signaling here to protect the two lines from each other. Should we, want to have any crossover happening, we don't want too many conflicts and too much holding up of the traffic going. So that is the line built now. So we can see we've got a line from Reno through to Thousand Oaks and then on to Roseville. Our big, probably what's going to hold us back here is getting the money together to purchase a train to run on this line. The reason I say that is if we pop over to our depot and have a look at it, so we will probably be running a Baldwin. We do have faster trains now, obviously, but the price goes up quite dramatically. The 10-wheeler is definitely something I'd like to have on here, but it'll just depend how the money goes, really. But if we have a look at our prices of our passenger cars, we're looking at $2 million for a passenger car. It costs more than the 10-wheeler that it would potentially be running against, and the 10-wheeler is not cheap. So we're going to need at least probably $6 million, a little bit over, to have this run. Obviously, we're not going to have a really long train to start with, and there's not going to be demand for a really long train to start with, but we want to have at least a couple of carriages on there. So I'm going to probably aim for a 10-wheeler and 2 of our newer passenger cars. Whether or not we can do that, I don't know, but it's something that we can save towards, I guess. Ooh, and Thousand Oaks is now accepting a new cargo construction material. So as part of the spring update, which obviously we've played on the channel before, but we've not started, from the beginning, it does have the capability for towns to start accepting more resources as they grow. So Thousand Oaks now accepts tools and also construction materials. If we look at construction materials, we've actually got a pretty decent way to get construction materials to the town. We've got 2 quarries over here and a construction materials plant at Roseville as well. So pretty decent opportunity for us to, I guess, start supplying Thousand Oak with the materials it needs to grow more. Obviously we've got tools as well, but tools is a little bit more difficult. We need to go further afield to sort of near Santa Clara. I think that's probably the closest place we're going to get, and yeah, it does look like it would be Santa Clara we'd need to go to, which is something to keep in mind, something we're going to need to do eventually, but construction materials is the easiest and quickest way for us to sort of get that growth in progress. But we're not going to be doing that this episode. We are, however, going to be going for a passenger vehicle, as you'd know. So we're going to go with the 10-wheeler, as I've mentioned, and we are also going to get, I think we are actually going to go with the one vehicle to start with. This is absolutely going to be running at a loss. There's pretty much no doubt about it. But it'll allow us to start getting passengers flowing and allow these towns to develop a little bit more, which obviously it's a self-sustaining sort of cycle when we do that. They grow more, there's more passengers, therefore more passengers to take, etc, etc. So hopefully when this train arrives now, we should have enough money in hand, which we do. So I'm going to get that purchased, and then we're going to set up a line for it to run on. Perfect. Had a quick little error that it threw about being unable to find a stop, but that was just due to the fact that we were sort of in the progress of building the route. So it's set up all correctly, we've got all the right platform set, and we're really just going to see how this is going to go. I doubt it's going to make us any money, at least to start with, but we've certainly got the opportunity, and we've got the growth that's going to come with it as well. Now, it's just gone 1900 in-game, and I don't know if you know what that means, but for me that means getting more loans. There's a couple of things I'm going to do with these funds. First of all, we have the opportunity to upgrade to some faster, higher capacity oil tankers, which I'll show you in a second. And secondly, we can maybe get an extra 1 or 2 cars on our passenger train as well. So I've taken our loan up to 20 million. So what I want to do from here, first things first, we'll go over to our fuel train and we're going to manage that. And because this is running a longer distance, it would benefit for some higher speed cars. So we can now go up to 80 kilometers an hour. If we have a look at our Baldwin, it can do 60. We could potentially look to put a 10-wheeler on here. Is that worth it? I don't know if it is right now, but what I'm thinking we will do is get the tank cars upgraded. So a couple of things we're going to do here. We're going to move off all our old ones, and there's a reason why we're doing that, and we will get some new ones added on now. This will increase the capacity as well. That's going to be good for us, up to 120. No depot was found apparently. What that means is we actually sold off those old ones. I don't know why there was no depot found, probably because there was no route to the depot, which we probably should fix up, but it's okay. And we're going to upgrade our passenger train. As you can see, we've now started to get quite a few passengers in here. It's almost full, 45. And if we pop over to Thousand Oaks, look at that, we've got passengers waiting there as well. So we're going to get in here and we'll also manage this one. Now, we're currently using the passenger car with clear story. What we're probably going to be looking... very expensive, actually. We'll just stick with a couple more of these on here. Perfect. As you can see, we've got a much longer train now. It's triple the length, sort of. Now, what I'm going to do with the leftover money is just we're going to upgrade the length of our oil line trains. So as you can see, our initial one, which is obviously using this older, the General, it's actually probably quite old right now. We could probably do with replacing it, but I think we should be right to let it last out a few more years. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to shift across some of our older oil tankers back onto that older train, and instead we will get some of our new tankers attached to our new train. That will allow us, when the time comes, to get rid of this train and replace it with something brand new, and obviously get rid of the old oil cars as well. We don't have that much replacement we need to do because our newer train already has the newer stock on it. Righty, and that is done. I did slightly rebalance them a little bit so that our older train didn't have quite as many cars on it because it looked like it was going to struggle getting up to speed a bit, but it's still a much longer train. It will be slower. This is all really going to be allowing us to make more profit as we go. So that is that. Obviously, we've still got some more loan we can take out, but we will leave it right there, and hopefully we can start to pay back some of that loan as we progress with this quite profitable resource chain. So let's have a look at our passenger network, see how it's going. First of all, let's start over in Reno. And we have 65 passengers, very, very nice. Our stagecoaches looks like doing okay. yeah, they're making a little bit of a profit. So you don't really, at least I don't expect to make much profit on these early local public transport networks. They're more as a feeder to both get the city growing and to move people across to your main modes of transport, being the station here. So we've got 70 there. And if we pop over to our passenger line train, it's got 89 sitting there right now, which will obviously all be unloading over here in Reno because it's the end of the line. But it's going to be half full. I think that's a pretty decent effort for early game. If we pop over here to Thousand Oaks, we've got 22 in total, half going each way. That's okay. If we look at our buses or our stagecoaches, we actually need a few more because I think they can only carry like 6 or something like that. This is probably going to be a good candidate to actually upgrade to a tram, I think, which we may do early next episode. Moving on to Roseville, and we've got 22 passengers waiting there, so lower, but still decent, and, you know, nothing really to laugh at. So if we have a look and see, our passenger train is now coming into the terminus over here at Reno, and let's see how much we get from it. 749, I'm actually really happy with that. That's very decent. And how much is it going to fill up with? 77, so that's almost exactly half full, actually, is it? I think it might be. I'm no good at maths, though. So yeah, things are looking really good for our network at this time. We're profitable, very easily profitable, and we've still got capacity to grow, and we still have plenty more resources we can be taking out of these crude oil fields here to increase that profitability even more. But I think we're going to leave it there for the moment. This will probably be a longer one compared to the last 2 videos, which is really good. Both because they're much more fun to do than to be sitting around waiting for, you know, money to come in. And 2, obviously you guys will probably enjoy it a lot more as well. If you have enjoyed this one, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell so you get a ding to your device the next time I post a video. You can find links to my social media in the description. Big shout out to Twitch. If you got Twitch, please get on Twitch, give me a follow, helps me out a lot. But until next time, I'm Bob Dendry. This is Transport Fever 2. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.